All right. So, welcome to the Building Trust podcast, where we talk with business owners, trade people, real estate professionals, and community leaders about how trust is earned, protected, and turned into long term success. Our phrase is simple: turning trust into triumph. I'm Benjamin Ariel Thomas, and today's episode is part of a series designed to help you get to know the people behind the show. So, today I'm interviewing my co host, Aaron Schroer. Many people know Aaron as the founder of Tennessee Home Inspectors, an educator, a business owner, and one of the people behind the Trusted Trade Hub and the Trusted Tradesman. But today, we're not going to spend an hour just reading his resume. We're going to talk about the moments that shaped him. So the career changes, the mentors, the business losses, the leadership mistakes, the relationships that make the way he thinks. Aaron, welcome to your own show.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate you, man. I'm glad to be here. Let's cut it up.
All right. So I want to begin with one broad question. When people hear the word trust, they usually think about honesty, but you seem to think about it more broadly than that. What does trust mean to you today?
Good question. I think integrity is a massive chunk. So honesty is just, being truthful, but integrity is more like, okay, what am I doing when nobody's looking? How am I really showing up for others? Am I keeping my word? Am I doing the things I say I'm going to do? Am I doing the right thing all the time?
Yeah, trust is definitely, confidence and knowing that, somebody's going to do what they said, and you really sound like, somebody who has that high level of integrity. All right. So before Tennessee Home Inspectors, before the podcast, and before most of the business people associate, with the version of yourself you are now, you were a furniture maker. So take us back to that period. What did you think your life was going to look like from that point on?
I had this idealistic view that if I loved what I was doing for work, I would never work a day in my life. And it is very ideological and real dreamy. As a young man, it sounded like the perfect scheme, like the life. How do you hack life? And I just had a love for building stuff. I like designing things. I like the excitement that comes along with starting a new project. I like tools. I like equipment. I like machines. I like steel and oil and metal and motors and everything that goes along with it. So being in a workshop is a really comfortable place for me where my attention to detail gets the opportunity to really shine. So yeah, that's kind of why I got into it, was what attracted me to that world. And I was, through a lot of determination and dedication and persistence, I was able to carve out my own path in that world. And I met some really great people along the way. It was a lot of fun.
And what did you love most about doing that work? Was it seeing a finished product, just the art of working with your hands, or was there a specific type of piece that you really enjoyed building?
I did love making furniture. I like the honesty in it. I really was attracted to like mission style furniture. It's very American in its heritage, and the exposed joinery, the honest construction is what really made me love that. And then when I got exposed to more intricate things like veneer work and marquetry and bending wood, and I learned about some of the magic that you could make happen that was not visible, I loved that too. So there was a lot of different components that attracted me to it. I like the ability to work in different styles and also kind of develop my own thing. I enjoyed the workshops and setting up a workshop and something that had good workshop flow. So the mechanics of taking a piece from raw material to finished product and moving it through the different stages of that workshop made a lot of sense to me. So when it comes down to designing the shop itself, that's a task. That's a whole lot of fun. Finished pieces, I did love. I enjoy seeing the reaction of a homeowner when I would bring a piece of furniture and deliver it to their house. They had something in their minds, a dream, and I was able to make that into a finished product was a real blessing for me. And to work with the finest materials and the most beautiful pieces of wood that I had ever seen was just humbling and a great opportunity for me.
That's awesome. So, at what point did you begin to realize that loving the craft and building a sustainable business were not the same thing?
That's good point. It was, I got to a point where I was working on a really big project. That project was think about a year and a half. It was a full house, library, wine cellar, 2 kitchens, all the trim in the home, big walk-in closets that were completely outfitted. And it was a lot of fun, but I had a lot of too many inputs in the design process, from the builder having opinions on how things would need to be done, and the interior designer and the real estate agent and the homeowners and a project manager, all these people putting into the process, but not necessarily allowing me the final say as the craftsman who was going to build it, and me advising people not to do something a certain way because it wasn't sound practice, and having my opinion overridden was a frustrating thing. And it was like selling myself short, that hey, I do need to make money, I have to pay bills. So at the end of the day, I'm going to build what these people want the way they want it. But that was a compromise of what I know should be done and how it should be done. And that was discouraging to my craftsman spirit and my sense of self. As a young man, I was learning how to stand up for myself and do things a certain way, but being under all the pressures that go along with it. I think as a more mature adult, I would probably handle things a bit different now. And it just came to the point where I learned, hey, there's easier ways to make a living out here. And ultimately, any job will become a job. That's our primary source of income. The mystique and the fantasy and the great feelings about it are going to fade, and some of that fun gets taken out unless we're building what we want to build and selling them direct to consumer after the fact. It's going to end up being a compromise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a really hard thing for people to admit. Like, you could be talented at something, care really deeply about it, and still realize that it may not be the right vehicle for your future. So did leaving that industry kind of feel like you were quitting?
You know, I had developed some other opportunities in the industrial part that I was operating out of. And so I went right from one business to another. And I did this at the beginning of 2008, before the real estate market and the economy took a really big tumble. So I exited at a really strong time. I didn't feel like I was losing anything. It was a decision that I made, and I never really looked back on. I made it for the right reasons. I had a good go at it, and I did a lot of self-discovery, and I absolutely loved those years. Being in the shop at all hours, day and night, being able to basically machete my way in through my own path in the jungle was everything to me. I've always been very independent in that manner, and I love that period of my life. So I don't, no hard feelings there. And people ask me all the time, hey, do you miss building stuff? I do. I love building it, but and people want to know, do you do things on the side? And I don't, because my equipment was, I built up such a great shop that to move back to hobbyist type equipment and hobbyist tools would be frustrating to me now. I can't go back. Once you've driven a Ferrari and a Lamborghini, it's kind of hard to move back to a Tercel or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And what part of the furniture maker still shows up in the way you operate today?
There's a lot. That whole design component, attention to detail, project management,
Mm-hmm.
budgeting. There's a million things. There's a lot of transferable skills there to home inspections and business, and there's numerous things.
Yeah, and it seems like, a lot of important patterns in your life, based around systems and doing things. I often say, you know how to do something the right way every time, the same way you would deal with, a huge saw and never cut your finger. Some people they got to hear the same thing multiple times so they don't cut their finger, but you know how to protect it. So that's one thing that I always think about those patterns that you have. And a chapter ends, but the
Well,
lesson always travels with you.
yeah, man. And it's like for me, if you're gonna design and build a piece of furniture that you don't have instructions for, you got to design the instructions. So the human brain is an amazing um creation, like like we have the ability to what do you say, like to model an idea and a project. So if I'm going to build a piece of furniture, my brain is going to really quickly build that furniture in real time. Like I'm going to go through every step and every stage in the design, the construction, the craftsmanship of that. And I'm going to figure out 6 or 7 or 8 different ways to build the same piece of furniture. You could do those steps in any number of order. Some of it is very strict. Like traditionally, you're going to do this and then this and then this. Yes. But what type of joinery you're going to use, how these pieces are going to fit together, what order you're gonna build the individual pieces. You got to work through all that. So we have to simulate the construction of that piece of furniture 3, 4, 5, 6 times and decide which one is going to give you the best results with the least amount of risk. And it would be the same way in designing a new product, or if we go to a house to do a home inspection, yeah, the general process of doing that home inspection is pretty consistent from house to house, but how we approach the roof differs at every house because it's situationally dependent. So as I'm taking one lap around the exterior of the house, I'm seeing, okay, that's a spot I could put my ladder up, but the ground leans a little bit to the left, which is away from and might make my ladder fall. So I don't love that one. I get on the other side of this front porch. Well, now the ground leans towards the porch. So if the ladder wants to slip, it's going to push me towards the porch and not towards the ground. So that's a better spot. But then I get to the back of the house and it's a single-story roof, not a 2-story roof. So, okay, this is a safer spot. Or I can go out that window up there and get on the roof. I don't even have to use a ladder. So it's imagining every step along the way. So while all the particular steps look the same, there's going to be one thing that jumps out. And, that's at the beginning of somebody's career, takes a lot to understand, build, and develop. And then later on, we're going to learn to trust ourselves and the experiences that we had that led up to it. And when I'm faced with a particular task, I know, well, I've done it this way successfully before. I did it this way. The results were not as good. Hey, if I try that, it might be even better than that successful way. So we're going to weigh those different options out, A, B, and C, look at the variables and try to make our best decision.
So yeah, that's amazing. So you left one professional identity, and not long afterward, someone gave you an opportunity in a field where you had not yet earned a reputation, were able to jump right into it. And so tell me about the person who helped you enter the home inspection business. How did that relationship begin?
Man, well, after I got out of woodwork, I got into a computer recycling business with some other people, and that partnership was not a great match. So I was looking to exit and get into something else. And I was talking to a buddy who was an appraiser. He recommended home inspections to me. I knew a home inspector from some local parties, Halloween parties that my buddy put on, and sports events. And I called up Bill and said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this. This is what I'm interested in, and this is why. And he invited me to go inspect some houses with him and just explore it and see if it's something that I might want to pursue. So I did that, and so Bill took me about 2 weeks. We went on inspections together, and he gave me little tests along the way. I ended up working for him. After the 2-week period, he offered me a job, and I came in as an office assistant and a home inspector's assistant. So I kind of saw both sides of the industry while working for him. I helped him develop some of his technologies where he was kind of locked into full-time inspecting. He didn't have the opportunity to improve his systems, processes, website, blog, reporting software, hardware. He was kind of stuck where he was at because he was super busy. He was in high demand, even though the economy was kind of going down, and the real estate industry in Nashville was not that busy. So, some of those tests he would do was like, he would set the ladder up to get into the attic, and he wouldn't put it up quite high enough. The ladder had more room. It could be boosted up higher to where entering the attic would have been an easier task, but he intentionally left it short to see if I could hop up there, if I had the upper body strength to pull myself up, and the balance and the agility to do some of the hard stuff. And how did I do on roofs, and how did I do in crawl spaces and tight spaces? So he intentionally put me in some challenging spots to see how I would react, and he was pleased with the results. So he did offer me that opportunity, and I worked with Bill for about 4 years. It was a great launch pad into the industry.
And when you were starting off, what did you actually know about home inspections? Did you just kind of jump into it and kind of like throw you in the water? Because I remember when I first started, I didn't know anything about home inspections. I just knew that realtors get them. I just knew that people order them.
Yeah.
First started?
I didn't know a whole lot. So I had read 1 or 2 home inspections that my mom had got. Bill was her home inspector because that's who I knew. And so I referred her to him. And when she bought her house here in Nashville, when she moved to Nashville, she got a couple home inspections, and I looked at those reports, and that was pretty much that's all I knew, man. I knew that it seemed like a good fit to me. That, okay, I've always liked houses. I remember being a kid, riding my BMX bike when I was 8 years old down to new construction so I could climb around and use the place like monkey bars. I would go through the attic structure before there was any drywall, and you could fall down and hurt yourself. And it was as fun as climbing trees. And I really just liked houses. So that had been an interest to me when I was really little. And then as I grew up, we had built a couple houses on our own property, and I hung out with the framers. I carried block, I carried brick, I mixed mortar for the guys, and I learned to pull wire and do rough ends. And I learned to finish out electrical outlets and switches and hang light fixtures. And I did some roofing and some plumbing. I had done cabinetry. So I was very familiar with various instruction techniques and practices and principles. I had hung siding and trim. So I was very familiar with the house, but I didn't know everything about home inspection. So, I took a 90-hour course, which is the requirement to get licensed. You have to pass a course and an exam. So I did those at my own pace while I was working for my mentor. And it took me a long time. I took a long time. I took my time and was very patient with the course material. I spent about a year to do a 90-hour class, just spacing it out a little bit here and there while I was getting real world experience. And I think that's a lot different. Most people go, they do their 90-hour class, they pass the exam, and then they go try to find somebody to work for. They start their own company. And for me, if somebody wants to come work at Tennessee Home Inspectors, that's going to be my minimum requirement. I want to know they've passed the exam because that lets me know they're serious about it. So I would say that Bill took a leap of faith on me, not even having taken the coursework or done the exam.
So why do you think he trusted you with that opportunity?
That's a good question. I think he utilized my skills and knowledge to help level up his business. So it was mutually beneficial. He didn't see me, like I said, when I started, I was basically a office assistant. I answered his phones. I did his filing. I did MapQuest for him. I did client agreements. I did bookkeeping. I did his website development. I did a lot of different things. So I helped him change the inspection software he used without people really noticing that he changed softwares. There was a lot of other stuff I was performing. So it gave me an opportunity to come in working for about, I think, $12 or $14 an hour. So that was a decrease in pay. I went down in my pay scale so that I could learn a new skill. Like, I wanted that experience. So leaving the wood shop, I had 2 jobs. I was working in the wood shop because I had already sold all my equipment. And so I was doing part-time in a wood shop and part-time as a home inspections assistant and office assistant.
Wow. And there's something really powerful in being trusted to grow into the role that you need to be in to be fully qualified over time. There's something really powerful in being able to just have that trust that you will be great and show up and actually be great. So did his confidence in you kind of change the way that you saw yourself?
Absolutely, because I did have to earn it, right? And that's something that he let me know early on, that these real estate agents are not going to trust you. They call here for me. That for a real estate agent to trust a new guy, to trust the contract that they've got a client, they got a home buyer, and they've shown that buyer 16, 20 houses. They've made 4, 5, 6 offers. Now they're under contract. Are they going to trust that deal to a novice home inspector? Probably not. That's a difficult gap to bridge. So how do you build that trust? And for me, it was being present. People were getting used to seeing me in the industry, and he was trusting me slowly but surely over time. So starting out, he would give me he would take me on big houses. If he had to go inspect a 6,000 square foot house, I would go with him, and he would give me simple tasks like go around, inspect all the outlets and the windows, and check the doors. Really simple stuff. He would take me on the roof with him and make sure I was learning to climb roofs and inspect roofs safely under his supervision. And then on the interior, he kind of set me loose. And while I was doing that, he would do the mechanicals and the electrical panel and the plumbing fixtures and this and that. And a long time, I slowly got more and more responsibility.
Right.
So that's kind of the way we train people at Tennessee Home Inspectors now too, is that we use a mentor trainee type situation where a new guy is going to follow with the home inspector, and at the beginning the new guy just observes, and then he starts entering data into the phone while the experienced inspector tells him where to go, what to take pictures of, how to frame up the picture. And it's a progression. It's bit by bit.
So was there a moment when you realized that this is not just a temporary job, that this is going to be your overall profession? When did you really know that this is a natural thing? And what were some of the clients that you remember that kind of stuck with you, that kind of made that huge turn in your life?
I knew pretty early on, honestly. Once I had been on several inspections, it felt good. This is a good place to be. I feel comfortable in this environment, right? I feel comfortable with these tasks. Like I know enough about a house. I'm competent enough with the technology, and my writing skills are good enough where I can do this and I can do it well. And then I looked at the monetary gain. It's like, okay, this is good money in this industry. So a person can come and run their own business and not work too awful hard and make decent money. Like this is a good 6-figure opportunity. So I looked at that and I knew, man, I found something that's a good fit for me. And I like helping the people. I like working with people, and to give them insights about their house and educate them set really well.
Mm-hmm. And how has that experience changed the way that you evaluate people now? Like looking at people's character and making decisions on how you trust them. How did that affect that for you?
Good question. I don't know that I've directly got a correlation between those two things. I know I have seen some instances of agents that I felt like weren't acting in their client's best interest, and
Yeah.
that's never set well with me. I've had agents interject during the conversations that I was having with home buyers, with our clients, and that's always rubbed me wrong. That if I'm trying to talk about what I'm seeing at the house, then I need to be allowed to speak freely. Um, and there's a right way and a wrong way to introduce ideas and talk about difficult situations in a home, difficult findings with the home buyer. And there's an art in that, and that's something that I've felt like I've perfected over time. And I hear a lot of stories about inspectors that don't do it right, that blow things out of proportion. You know, anything can be fixed in a house. If we find something wrong, it can be dealt with.
So one of the earliest lessons was that trust, it creates opportunity. And then later you learn the other side of that equation, and opportunity can also disappear very quickly. So there was a period when your business looked very healthy from the outside, and you had a corporate client sending a large volume of work. What did that relationship look like at its peak? And I'm talking about in the beginning when you first did your big springboard with your first large set of clients with your business.
So with that, I went off on my own when there was an opportunity to get a corporate client. My mentor, it didn't represent his product, and because of that, he didn't like the idea. We got a phone call from a seller's agent where they had broke a contract based on the findings in the report, and she, in an email, gave him a pretty negative opinion of what they had provided. And so his reaction was that, hey, that's not my product, it doesn't represent me, it's not a good look for my business. And I could see him pulling the rug out from under that opportunity. But for me, it was an excellent opportunity. I was going from getting his leftover inspections where his schedule was full, and then an agent was willing to work with me, which was, it's not a lot. So I was to the point in my career where I was ready to make some actual money. And here was this other opportunity. It didn't interfere with his core business and the relationships that he had. So it made sense for me to move on and follow that. And that's what I did. So the next year I had one corporate client, and they ended up sending me 400 work orders my first year in business, which is very unusual. It's pretty much overnight success. I had to pay my dues to get there, but when the opportunity was there and the timing was right and I could seize the day, that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, it felt like you built a successful company, right? Like, how did you feel?
I felt great, man. I was on top of the world. It was, yeah, it was a really good thing. And the deal was that, hey, they'd send me work so long as I didn't, spike the prices on them and was able to keep up with the workload. They'd send me as much as I wanted. So it was a really good opportunity.
And when did that start to dwindle? Like, based on that core opportunity, when did you realize the work was starting to go away? Was there any warnings, or was it gradual, or just sudden, seeing that major client go away, and that pivot that you had to make?
Yeah, no, that came, they gave me warning. The VP, if I remember correctly, I think his name was Peter. Peter called me up. His office was in Virginia or something, and he said that they had to prove to Wall Street that they could turn a profit, and they made the decision to bring their inspections in-house. So they were doing some hiring. He let me know that I'm his guy in Nashville. I do a great job. He loves what I'm doing, and if I wanted to, I could, I could take the job and come work there, full benefits, good salary. And I graciously declined. I let him know, I really appreciate the opportunity. I feel honored that you think that much of me, but I can't do the things that you're about to ask me to do, because I already knew that they buy portfolios out of state. And as a single parent with full-time custody, I knew that traveling to Memphis or Chicago or Boise, Idaho, wherever, that, if they were buying 30, 40 houses in an area, they would want me to go look at them, and they were going to ask me to do stuff like that. And I just couldn't do it. So I graciously declined, and he let me know that the work was going to go away if I didn't take the job. So I said, well, I appreciate that, but I can't do what you're going to ask me to do. So I've got, whatever 16 work orders already in the pipeline. I'll do those, and anything else you want me to handle while you're, working through your hiring process is just fine. I'll do those too. And they had me doing all kinds of stuff. I had the longer I worked with them, the more responsibilities that they gave me. They started me out, I was just doing pre-purchase inspections. Then they had me beta testing new contractors that were going to come work for them. And they had me doing quality assurance on contractors that were completing jobs, auditing their billing and whatnot. So, you know, some of the contractors that I audited, I didn't recommend them. I said, I don't think it's a good fit for you. Some of them I did recommend. I said, hey, this contractor does great work, but they don't have the financial runway to do 20 houses for you and wait for your 60-day or 30-day terms. Like if you give them too many jobs, they're going to go broke. So start them out slow, let them acquire some more capital, and then they can do more. But I think they'll do great work for you. And other contractors, you know, I would audit a job they did and say, this person's ripping you off. I just inspected that house a couple months ago before you bought it, and they billed you for a complete repaint. There wasn't a nail hole in this house. It was 2 years old. They never hung a picture. The place was beautiful. There was no reason to go in there and paint the entire house. They wasted like $14,000-$15,000 right there. So they got canned. And you know, it was a good service. They had me doing move out inspections. I would rekey a force entry to a house, rekey the locks, and do a move out inspection when a tenant left. They ended up buying 600 houses in Middle Tennessee. And so yeah, great experience.
So describe the emotional difference between having hundreds of work orders and then hearing almost nothing.
It was tough, dude. Yeah, when that work went away, I didn't have my own product. I had a company and a company name, but I didn't have a logo or a website or a brand. I had a lot of contacts because as I was doing these inspections, I was in touch with the listing agent. There was 5 or 6 buyer's agents I was working with in different parts of Middle Tennessee. And then when I went to houses, I was taking pictures of all the realtor business cards that were left. So I was able to harvest a lot of data and have a market to advertise to when I was ready. But yeah, I went from really busy to not much going on. And I had, you know, I saved a lot of money while I was doing that work, but it took me about 6 months to build everything I needed to run a multi-inspector company.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
That was hard, man. It took a lot to build that. I would go drop my
Yeah.
son off at daycare, and I'd turn around and come home, and I'd sit there and work on report editing software. I would work on the website. I would work on accounts at Yelp and LinkedIn, and you know, all the different places, making Google accounts and Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts. It took a lot of work. And I did them all myself, and I made all my own profiles and got everything populated to where it was a well put together brand. I had to build our CRM, all the workflows, all the pipelines, all the emails, text messages that would go out to real estate agents that I didn't have, and that would go out to home inspectors that I didn't employ yet.
So what did you learn about the difference between revenue and security?
Difference between revenue and security, there's a lot of overlap there. You know, I think revenue builds security. You got to have the relationships and you got to manage it right.
Yeah, and so what was your next step in transitioning into building that business back up? I know you said a lot about building up those relationships with realtors or really hitting the phone. What was it like making that hard switch in the right direction?
Well, once my so yeah, to circle back a little bit, man. So having revenue gives you security,
Yeah.
but once that revenue stops, you might still have security for a while, but eventually that runway runs out and you got to get to revenue again. I had a strategy, and it was okay. Everybody I had talked to they always said, man, my inspector's always so busy, this, that, and the other. So I had accumulated hundreds of email addresses. I had in my head that I would be able to send an email out and just let everybody know that I was now taking more retail home inspections, and I was open to additional work. If anybody needed me as their second guy, that just hit me up. And I sent out that email, and I heard crickets. Like nobody took me up on that. Like 1 or 2 weeks went by, and I had that, oh no, like this sinking feeling that was my plan and it didn't work. And I hadn't even worked on a contingency plan. I had the false idea that I was gonna have this magic bullet of sending out one email and being busy, because that's
Mhm.
what the feedback I got was that people need inspectors. So, people said that, but there was a disconnect in what they said and what they meant, or what they said and what the reality would be when I just put myself out into the marketplace. So ultimately, I had to get out there face to face and meet people and do it the old fashioned way. I had to go to networking events and shake hands and meet people and go to open houses and introduce myself. And I had to sponsor real estate sales meetings and get in there and meet 30, 40 agents at a time, buy them some food, hand out some cards, get up in the front and open my mouth and get my voice out into the world.
Mhm. And you said before that people should build relationships before they need them. Is that the lesson you kind of learned rooted in this period?
Yeah, because I could have been doing that the whole time, man. Absolutely. There was two big things I could have done different. When I had all the business I needed, I could have been building my own brand and been ready for that day. I knew the day would come, but I was enjoying life and the freedom, and I had some other things going on that I was enjoying, and I wasn't building towards that. I saved, which was smart, but I didn't go ahead and build this stuff before I needed it. I waited until it was necessary to take action. And the same thing happened when I got out there and started doing networking. Well, I could have been doing the networking while I was doing the building. You should do them all. And I've had other inspectors come work for me make the same mistake, that hey, they know some agents, they're a trainee, they think, oh, when I'm ready to do inspections, I'll let this agent know. And no, it don't work like that, man. It takes time. These people have to know who you are and what you do for an extended period of time before they give you a shot. Just a
Hmm.
shot. Give me a chance, yo. And it's gonna take time.
It does. It does. And so, what would you say to an owner whose company depends heavily on one customer or a referral source or a platform?
Start diversifying. Don't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. And that experience taught you not to place the whole future of business in one relationship. And another relationship taught you something different. It taught you, how much grace can change a person. So tell me about Roger. Who was he and what did he teach you?
Roger's a good friend of mine, and he's got a business just plain wood. I'm gonna have him in as a guest on the podcast at some point in time too. He and I used to work together when I was working for myself, and he was mostly working for himself. Every now and then, he would need a hand installing a batch of cabinets or some heavy furniture. And if I was free, he'd pay me to come along and pitch in, and that was great. I learned a lot about installing cabinets in old houses from him, how to level up a set of cabinets in an environment that's not level. So he taught me about scribing and fitting inside old historic homes. And in Nashville, we got quite a few of those. And it's a skill that I didn't learn. Most of the stuff I did on my own had been in new construction, and most of the stuff I did was freestanding. So he taught me about built-ins a lot. And so any built-in I had done prior to that had been in a new construction house, which for the most part is pretty level. And he taught me a lot about woodworking. He was more experienced and had been doing it longer than me, but I would say bigger than that, he taught me about grace. I
Hmm.
was, I'm a bit of a perfectionist at time. I've settled down over the years, but back then in my early 20s, I was really hard on myself, super hard on myself. And a critic, like, nobody criticizes anybody else, but I criticize myself like that. And Roger showed me grace. He allowed me the opportunity to make a mistake and be human about it. So not everybody's that way, right? If you go screwing something up on somebody else's clock, they can be really hard on you. And for him, hey, he knows he makes mistakes. We're all human. Everybody does. So he actually gave me the ability to give myself some grace, and that was good to establish that humility. And I've carried that lesson on to other people. and I allow myself to see other people, allow them to make their mistakes too, and try to be a good coach about it and not too hard on folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of leaders confuse grace with avoiding a hard conversation. So how do you distinguish the two?
It's tough, and leadership is a really tough thing. I think it's a coachable moment when we see somebody make a mistake. Number one, if we stay humble with our own experience and our own mistakes, that's going to go a long way. And if we if we approach it with tact, then we can help them get better. And ultimately, that's the goal. Instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, let's make sure that this person gets the love that they need to do better next time, right? And Roger joked with me once, but he wasn't joking. I did have an accident in the shop, and I was going through a divorce at the time. It was a really stressful time in my life, a lot of sleepless nights. And I had a kid that was really upset, and my son was a baby at that time. And man, it was a rough period, but I made a mistake and I got punished physically for it. I injured myself and went to the hospital. I got a kickback on a really old saw with a whole lot of power, and it threw a board into my ribs that cracked some ribs. And I ended up getting some scans and x-rays, and I was okay. They're like, yeah, probably cracked a rib, no big deal, just go home and walk it off, tough guy. But I did have to take some time off work, and something like that is expensive. Anytime you go to the ER, it's a lot. And so Roger had a talking with me. He said, "Man, if you need to take some time off to get yourself right, you got to do what you got to do. We can't be making mistakes like that. You'll get one of those, but next time you go to the ER, that's it, man."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, fair enough, fair enough. And he was right. So yeah, I needed proper sleep. Stress has to go away. We have to be able to perform our job. And if it involves taking some unpaid time off so we can get our head right and come back and be good, that's the right thing to do instead of, destroying that opportunity, losing that opportunity long term.
Yeah, grace helps preserve trust, when someone's still willing to grow. And there's also some moments when a single interaction can damage something that took a long time to build. So it's really cool about how you're able to, share grace with people and really, have that patience. And you have a story, that's really opportunity, like really interesting. So we want to talk about the opportunity that took a year to earn and 45 minutes to lose. So what happened with that? What was that?
Said earlier that a lot of these real estate agents don't trust you right away. Like, we have to nurture these relationships. And for top producing agents, that might take years to earn their trust, right? We have to show up consistently, persistently for a long time. And we have to
Mhm.
show up the same again and again and again for people to earn that trust. And there was a top producing team here in Middle Tennessee that I had kind of eyeballed as a whale. And it's like, man, I want their business because they do a lot. So identified who they were and paid attention to when they were having networking events, charity events. I would go to their stuff. I called into their that brokerage, set up a sales meeting where I came in and I bought everybody in the brokerage lunch, and I found out when their team meeting was, and came in for the team meeting. And it took a lot of time, money, energy, effort to finally be given a shot. And eventually, after doing all this, like I say, it's at least 6 months, maybe 9 months of kind of courting their business. One of the newer agents on the team gave me an opportunity for our company to do a home inspection. Typically, the buyer's agents are kind of the newer agents, and the more experienced agents go on the sell side and the listings. But so we got an opportunity to do a home inspection, and I was at they had that organization was having a big event the day we were doing the inspection. So I was there set up with the table, and I was meeting people, shaking hands and talking to folks. while the inspector was off to do that job. And I got a call from the buyer's agent, like, hey, we've been at the house for about 45 minutes. Where's your guy? And I like, what do you mean, where's my guy? Like, so it was an afternoon appointment. And I got off the phone with the buyer's agent. I called up the inspector to find out, hey, where you at? It's like, oh, sorry, man, I'm late. I was having some stomach problems and I'm just, I'm on my way over there now. And I was just blown away. It's like no call, no show. It would have been so easy to pick up the phone an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes ago. Because if he was running late, he knew it long before that. It's not like it was a big surprise or a secret. He could have called that buyer's agent and the client, or at least send them a text message, just letting them know I'm behind schedule. I've still got to drive there, and you should expect me later. And I'll give you an update when I'm leaving here. That would have been super simple, but he didn't do that, and that ended up costing me that relationship. That we had one opportunity, and we blew it. So as a leader, I learned a couple things from that. What are my takeaways, right? As a leader, we should have extreme ownership. Any problem that happens, that's our problem. I'm the owner of the company. It's going to fall on my shoulders. So I got to own that. Okay, what could I have done different? Number one, I could have prepped that inspector to know this is a high priority job. Like, this is a high profile client, high profile agent. This is a big deal. We've spent a lot of time and money making this happen. And if we do a good job, there's going to be a lot more work that comes behind it. So do your best. And I don't think I let him know that. I operate under the assumption that my guys are doing their best all the time. So I shouldn't have to have that conversation. But just because I shouldn't have to doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. There's a difference there. So I could have given him a heads up. And then number two, if it is a high profile job like that, do it myself. Right? So if something is that important, be the guy that shows up. But I got to weigh that out. So looking at the situation, do I do the inspection or do I go do the big event? Big event, like I felt like I already won that. My inspector's going to take good care of us. I can go over here and harvest some more good stuff to continue to make it rain. As a business owner, we got to be a rainmaker, and that's the same on those big teams. Like if there's a real estate team, the rainmaker is the guy with his name on the board.
So what was your first reaction? Was it like, were you angry or were you disappointed or fear that the relationship was gone? Like, what was your initial reaction to that?
Initial reaction is denial, followed by anger, just all the stages of grief. I went through the whole range of emotions.
Yeah. And what did that experience teach you specifically about how to delegate trust?
Yeah, like I said, man, just give people a good heads up, let them know, verify, have some systems and processes behind it to ensure it doesn't happen again, right? So I would say that was in my first couple years of running an inspection company, and we've got better processes now than we did then. So each experience is an opportunity to tighten up the systems and make it better. And they develop over time. These are hard-won experiences.
Let's talk about how that loss could have been prevented from like training or communication standards. How do you prevent that now?
Now the inspectors get an automated text message before their inspection. Hey, are you going to make it there on time? And that's less about replying to the text than them getting a notification. So they're going to get a notification from Google Calendar about 30 minutes before their next inspection, but 30 minutes before that, they're going to get a text message from the office. It's just automated. And if they reply to it and it says no, then hopefully somebody's there, they should be doing, they've got their own processes where they're supposed to notify the client and the buyer's agent.
And so after an experience like that, how do you avoid becoming so controlling that it's kind of holding people back from growing? Like how are you able to really, grow and still have that amicability?
I'm not a very good micromanager. So for me, that takes care of itself. Is I will develop a new system, we'll put it in place, and we'll see how it goes. And if it needs to be adjusted again, then we'll adjust it again, which is not what everybody would do. So some people will micromanage it and make every individual phone call, but I have time for all that. So my big thing is systems. Let's develop a system and a process that works even when things go bad.
Yeah, and that's the point where trust becomes a leadership responsibility. And your first hire may have taught you more about that than anyone else. So let's talk about who Colin was and why do you think that he made a good home inspector?
He was a buddy of mine that was in the same industrial park as me. He had a wood shop a couple doors down, and he was looking to transition, and he saw what I was doing in home inspection, and so he wanted to come on board. And he was my first employee in life. I had some like day labor under the counter stuff in the woodworking world. I never had an employee before, so when he started, I wasn't really ready. I ended up having to and I just started, he did work and I wrote him a check and just started paying him a check. So eventually I reached out to my CPA and I said, hey, Miss Judy, um, I'm doing this now and I think I'm supposed to be doing some withholdings and I got to get right with this. So, she scolded me a little bit, but she did her bookkeeping magic and made sure I got on the right side of that and got me caught up. So I ended up, paying those withholdings and everything and getting everything squared away pretty easily. But all along the way, that's what made it. It helped me learn about the holes in my systems, how to work multi-inspector firm, how to be a boss, and basically a leader.
Mm-hmm. What did Colin know that you didn't know?
He did know a lot about houses and fixing things, and he was really good at that. He was really good at being personable and making friends with people at the house, making them feel comfortable. Kind of a country guy, country accent, and some people find that really endearing and it makes them feel comfortable. We've got a lot of that going on, but then we also got a lot of people moving here from other places that were from California and Chicago, and they listen to somebody with a southern drawl and they might look down on that person. It can sound uneducated to somebody who's not used to it, who's not like, that's just the way people talk. Um, so he had that to battle. And then, I had to carry a lot of weight in his report writing style. I had to do a lot more proofreading and editing and cleaning that up. So I would kind of carry some of the workload on that, which later on turned to be, that's something that can get unmanageable. When it's just one person as an employee, then it's fine because I'm only proofreading and delivering my reports and theirs. Once I had two more people on the team, then proofreading became more and more challenging. So the need for accuracy before it even got to me was more important.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So yeah, you've been intentional about telling the story, about the things that like he struggled with and how he grew without making him, the villain. And some of the things that are really important to me are that, he was talented with a lot of strengths and weaknesses, just like yourself. And the leadership lesson was that, there's no failure when you're trying something new. And it was really great that you hired somebody, building the company who's capable of actually supporting and being a part of that. So you really trained and managed somebody, early on, and I have a high regard for that. So let's talk about the first inspection. So what happened?
Man, his first inspection, so he had trained with me a good while. And then when he did his first house, it was out of necessity. Somebody needed one in a big hurry, and I was already on it. It was an investment property up in Madison, and so I sent him on that. And like, all right, man, you're on your own today. Just go handle it. I feel like you got this. You've been with me long enough and done enough inspections together, and it was a lot. That house was, as we would say, it was bombed out, man. Like it was rough. So there was a lot of comments. He was there the entire day. Most inspections take 3 or 4 hours. Usually 3 hours is what we allot. He was there the entire day. It was just feeling overwhelmed. It's this feeling you get when you just start inspecting. There's a moment when we question our decisions and say to myself, hey, I'm in over my head. And he was having one of those days. Well, by the time he got to the end, he was in the crawl space. We usually do that last. and it was a really tight crawl space, and he got stuck. He
Mm.
got stuck under there, and he was wiggling his way out and kind of getting frantic and freaking out. In the process of freaking out, he ended up resetting the phone, which corrupted his inspection file, and he lost all the work he did that
Oh,
day as far as the data entry. The info was still in his head, but he had to come back the next day and recreate that entire report from scratch. He had to start over on it pretty much.
yeah. So at that moment, you thought pretty much, I made a terrible mistake, huh?
Not too bad, man. These things happen. Technology is great when it works, and sometimes it glitches out on you. So I wasn't too worried about it. It's just, it was a hard break-in process for him.
Okay, and then there is the employment side. So you were writing commission checks, but you had not properly set up payroll, withholding, workers' compensation agreements, or other, needs for employment. So how
Mhm.
did you get that corrected? That was with Miss Judy, right?
Yeah. She's a magician. She did all the right things to get me squared away and help me get set up. And after that, she taught me what to do, and we got set up in QuickBooks. And now I got a bookkeeper who does a lot of that. Um, but she got me going. And there's always wisdom and counsel, and we can lead towards pros when it's time for that sort of thing.
And you were also reviewing and correcting reports after the fact. So at
Mhm.
one point, did helping become enabling?
Yeah, well, that's easy to do. We can carry somebody's weight, but as I was seeing things come along, in order not to be enabling, I would come up with checklists and systems and processes to ensure that people would do the things they were supposed to do. And I think by that time, I had another inspector or two on the team. So systems became and rules and processes and systems became more and more important. That each problem that I faced was an opportunity to develop a new procedure, and so being able to do that was the way to go. Just pay attention to what's happening, and then try to get on the right side of it.
And so, what company systems came directly from those early mistakes?
Sure. So like dress standards with, I would get a phone call. Hey, your inspector didn't look real professional. I wasn't sure if he was, some painter that was there or something. They want to hold us to a little higher standard than a lot of people. So, talking about dress standards and communication and politics guidelines is something that, we have people across the full spectrum of the political world who are employees, who are clients, who are referral partners. And as a company, we got to stay out of it as best as we can, which is hard for people to do sometimes. So, like, don't have political conversations at work. That's just the thing. You do that off the clock on your own time, and then it's fine. Um, but they can get read really wrong, and somebody can make assumptions about somebody on where they think their politics might be, and they can be wrong and offend somebody. We've got things about, we had accusations and potentially had left the water running at a house. So, I put in a policy that before we leave, we take a picture of the water meter on the way out, so that we know, hey, that water meter is sitting at rest, and we take a couple pictures of it from different angles so you can tell that there was time between these pictures. And that proves one thing, that there's no leaks. That also proves that we didn't leave a faucet on. And then I put simple things in that check, is like, did you lock the doors? Did the office give you permission to leave? Meaning that um, I was having a problem with inspectors leaving the house too early. The client showing up and the inspector being 15 minutes away because he already left. Oh, it said in the work order nobody was coming, so I just left. Like, no, you have to let people know when you get there and before you leave, and that's the right thing to do. So these are things I was doing as a matter of just like, well, of course I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to communicate with my client because I want to build a relationship so they get a good product and feel good about the service that they got, but also so they tell other people, they leave a review, and they use us again. So of course I'm going to communicate with our clients. but not everybody thinks like me. So I had to come up with a checklist and a procedure to ensure that other people operate in that ideal manner.
All right. So yeah, so Colin stayed for about 8 years. And so when you look back, what do you credit him with helping you build?
Man, so like basically a pre-flight and a post-flight checklist. That was really important. Our quality assurance training goes that way. The way that we do our training ladder from, is basically the same way that I did with
Walk us
him.
through the training ladder too. Make sure we get the full training ladder.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, like it starts out where the new inspector, the trainee is just observing and they're learning how to move about a house. One of the best things, well, what the inspector, like the pre-license education is for, is to teach somebody how to pass the exam, but it doesn't really get them ready to inspect a house. So somebody's got to show them how to do that, just how to run that circuit, how to do it efficiently, how to go around the house one or two times and be done instead of bouncing around from place to place all sporadically. Um, so yeah, we would start out, the trainee just observes. The next stage, they enter the data and take the pictures while the inspector does the inspectors and teaches them how to build a report. And then once they get good at building a report, then they switch those roles, and the primary inspector will do the report building while the trainee does the motions and the inspection. And then they've got the safety net of a licensed, experienced inspector behind them, making sure they don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final stage is for that trainee to do both, where they're inspecting the house and building the report, but they've got a safety net. They got that wire, that guy wire, that leash attached to them of the experienced inspector. And then there's also the report editor behind both of them, making sure that the final product's what we want it to be. And then from there, like, yeah, they're gonna go do their first home inspection. And I like to start them with something really simple, like a new construction or a condo. So they get a quick win. They feel like they did something, not that first house like Colin did, where it was a total disaster and he's there all day and has to go back the next day. So get a quick win in, do that a few times, let that house get a little bit harder. They may end up in a ranch house that's, 60, 70 years old. So it's going to take a little more work. Or they go do a bigger house, but it's still just one inspection a day. And then once they've done that, I'll throw a really hard house at them, something really, really challenging and difficult. And then they're going to question why they got into the industry. That's intentional. It's that, oh, wow, now I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm in over my head. But that imposter syndrome goes away, and they get through it and they do it. And then they feel, okay, it was hard, it was challenging, but I did it. And then the other inspections become so much easier. Next day they can go, they're ready to do two. So after that, I'll give them two easy inspections and they'll knock those out of the park. And then we'll do one is easy and one's a little bit harder. And that was more challenging. And then they're going to get two really hard inspections, or one big house and one old house, and just build up that stamina and that confidence and those skills.
That's awesome. Okay, so what is the fairest one sentence description of what Colin taught you?
I would say he just taught me to build better systems and be a better leader.
Yeah. Okay. And so I want to connect these stories. So you walked away from a profession that you loved. A mentor trusted you before you were fully qualified. A major source of work disappeared. Someone taught you grace. A team member lost an opportunity that took a year to earn, and your first hire exposed systems that you had not built yet. What thread connects all of those experiences?
It's really persistence, courage, self-belief. Like, man, like you got to be delusional to do this. If you're going to get into entrepreneurship, you got to believe you can do anything. And unfortunately, when I was a kid, my parents told me you could do anything, and I believed them. So I've wanted to pave my own way. and it's been challenging. Like everything that I've done has been a little bit outside the box, and sometimes it's hard, but it's the persistence that just keeps me going.
And our catchphrase is turning trust into triumph. What does that phrase mean to you after everything we just discussed?
Honestly, it's we got to learn to trust ourselves and our own abilities, and come out with a win. If we really decide that winning is the only option, and we're persistent and we're consistent, then we can triumph, man. If we trust ourselves and we keep showing up and we keep doing it and we take every adversity in stride and keep going, the result is the result. It's the only conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Triumph is not just avoiding a difficult chapter, it's extracting the lesson and becoming more useful because of it. And so, what are you still learning about trust?
Well, like Tim said, when we were talking to him, man, it can be lost in a second, in an instant. Like, it can take a really long time to build it. We can lose it in an instant, and it takes even longer to build it the second time, right? So some people will never give you another chance, but some people will. If we own it and we apologize and we make the appropriate changes, then we can bounce back for sure. And I've seen that plenty of times in my career. I've got other stories about it, um, but that's a big thing for me.
And what do you hope listeners understand about you after hearing these stories?
I hope that they just understand I'm a normal dude and with a thick head who set off to do a thing and was able to do it despite challenges along the way, right? There was plenty of opportunity to turn back at any of these things and make other decisions. Um, but I wanted to empower other people to be willing to do their own thing too. If there's something that people want to do, that, hey, go all in if you're going to do it, and be prepared for some bumps along the road, build trust in yourself, help other people trust you. Like, be that guy that other people can count on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, as we close out, I'm going to ask you 6 questions and just don't overthink it. Give me a quick answer. So, who trusted you before you trusted yourself?
Well, probably my mama.
I was going to say the
you
same.
know,
I
man,
was,
when I
I,
think
that's,
about,
yeah, yeah.
she always gave me, when I was a kid, man, I was a latchkey kid, right? I caught
Mhm.
I caught the bus to school. My mom was a nurse and my stepdad was a cop, and they were gone before I got out of bed.
Mhm.
So, whatever third grade, fourth grade, whatever time that was in my life, I was young and I had my own alarm clock and I made myself breakfast and got dressed and saw myself home at the end of the day. There was a couple times I missed the bus because I want to see that last section of G.I. Joe. I knew I had to leave at the second commercial break or I was going to miss the bus. But sometimes, I'm eating them Cheerios and I just had to find out how the story's going to end. But I had a neighbor that would take me to school. But yeah, my mom, man.
Okay, so what is the fastest way for somebody to lose your trust?
Just don't do what you say you're gonna do. Be rude to me. Like there's ways people can put a wedge in
Yeah. So what is one trait that makes you trust someone quickly?
when they're transparent.
And what is the difference between a good person and a trustworthy business partner? Yeah, the
You
difference
know,
between a person and a trustworthy business partner.
there's a saying, a philosophy that you don't want to deal with a good guy, right? A nice guy. That a nice guy is not gonna tell you what you need to hear or tell you the truth. And somebody who's trustworthy might give you some pushback and some feedback that is difficult to hear, But if you've got your best intentions in mind, they're going to tell you those things regardless, even if it's a bit painful.
Yeah. And what is one apology that you've never forgotten?
Hmm.
That's a difficult question because I even was trying to think how would I answer that myself.
Yeah. Yeah. One apology. I'm gonna default to the structure of an apology, right? This is something that they taught my son in daycare, and I hadn't heard it. And there's a formula to a good apology. And the funny thing is, one time, this is crazy, but I was researching a camera that we could use for video, and ChatGPT helped me make a decision to purchase a camera off of Facebook Marketplace. And at the end of that, I started using the camera, and it cut out video after 30 minutes. For whatever weird Japanese import law at the time it was manufactured, it would not do a video longer than 30 minutes, which is totally what I needed it to do. And I told ChatGPT, hey, I trusted you to help me make this decision, and you let me down. This is an expensive purchase, and I can't use this camera for what we were supposed to. And ChatGPT came up with the perfect apology. And this is the same structure that they taught my son at his daycare when he was little. And number one, we acknowledge the mistake. And then we let that person know how we imagined it must have made them feel. So now we empathize with the person that we hurt. And then we let them know that we're sorry and we're not going to do it again. And then we let them know what we're going to do to make it right. And making it right might be doing something to make amends, to make that person whole. ChatGPT can't do that, obviously. But what it did was let me know what it would do to prevent it from happening again, how we were going to have a relationship in the future that avoided recurrence of that problem. Yes. So that is that 4-point apology. And maybe there's a fifth one I'm forgetting, but that's the way I recall it. Was taught to my son. He learned to do it when he was a toddler. And then, I saw ChatGPT do it not that long ago, maybe a year ago. And that sticks out to me. And of course, he made some apologies like that to me when he was little, and all of that. But it's more the structure of it is meaningful. And I think if people learn that structure, especially the empathy part on how that must have made the other person feel, it's hard to vocalize that sometimes and to say it out loud, because now I'm feeling the pain that I probably put somebody else through. But I think it goes a long way with the person who's on the receiving end.
Mm-hmm. And what does triumph look like to you now?
Reaching those goals. I think it's, there's a saying that a person who's making progress towards their goal is a winner. They're experiencing that triumph. It's not about the goal. It's not about getting to the finish line. It's about enjoying the process. So if we're making continuous progress towards a goal and we set that goal, that's triumph. And ultimately, we're gonna have some goals that we accomplish along the way before our big goal. So it's the progress, man.
All right. So, Aaron, thank you for letting us go beyond your resume and into the experiences that truly shaped you. The lesson I hear across all these stories is that trust is not something you can claim. It is something that people experience through your choices, your consistency, your purpose, and your response to failure. And it's also the way that you treat people when things get difficult. So this has been the Building Trust podcast. We are here to have honest conversations with people who understand that long-term success is built one relationship at a time. Subscribe to the show, share this episode with someone who's building a business or rebuilding after a difficult season, and send us the names of people whose stories belong in this conversation. We'll see you next time. And until, keep turning trust into triumph. Thank you, Aaron.